I've got a confession to make. I cheated. My first successful dropshipping store wasn't built from scratch, it was bought from Flippa. Guys, this is James Holt back with another video. Today we want to talk about my first successful dropshipping store. Like I said, I bought it from Flippa and I'm going to talk about that decision, why I did it, the results, and give you some perspective on whether this is something you should consider for yourself as well. And I realize it's not for everyone, so even if you're not in a position where you can afford to invest in a website, just use this as perspective. So I bought this store for 4,000 US dollars. At the time, it was making, or the site owner claimed it was making 1.2 thousand US dollars in monthly profit. I suspect the ad costs were higher than he claimed and the profit was therefore smaller. The site was 10 months old at the time, and at 1.2 thousand monthly profit and 4,000 US dollars price, it obviously seems too good to be true. If you're not aware, websites like this would normally sell for about maybe a 6 to 10, 12, 15 times monthly profit. So at this, it's 3.5 times monthly profit. It is a very low multiple. So I had already worked this into my calculation that the claimed profits probably weren't quite accurate. So the site on the surface looks too good to be true. He hadn't used proper email marketing yet. He barely did retargeting. And there was a few things that I arrogantly thought I could do better, despite having never had any success with dropshipping before. However, I had the money from my other businesses and I wanted to reinvest. And I thought this was a good opportunity, not just from an investment perspective, but also because I wanted to learn dropshipping and I thought this would be a good way to speed up the learning process. So the offer seems too good to be true, and as the saying goes, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. There were some serious problems with this business. The most glaring one being customer refunds. He claimed to have barely any refunds, which was true, and I verified that it was true. However, that doesn't quite account for the fact that he knew or must have suspected that there was going to be an influx of customer refund requests coming. Problem was he had been using a supplier who probably either didn't ship the products or didn't ship them reliably. It was taking over 60 days for the products to arrive to Germany, where most of the customers for the store were living. So this is where I learned this first important lesson. You have to be careful when dropshipping to Europe. Shipping times can be a huge problem, and to this day I'm not quite sure whether his supplier was the problem, whether he just ripped them off and never sent the products, and most of the sales, most of the revenue and profits from the store were coming from one single product. So that's another thing to look out for if you're going to buy a store. Make sure he has at least 3 products that are bringing in a decent chunk of revenue, or calculate that into your valuation. So a store or 2 stores that both make 10k monthly profit that are identical, except that one store has the profit spread out over 3 products and the other one is all in one product, I would be happy to pay slightly more for the store that has the profit distributed over 3 products. You've just got lower risk, because if something like this happens where the seller doesn't, or where the AliExpress supplier doesn't ship the products, you have less of a risk there. So what happened was I got a lot of emails about the product not arriving. and because I'm now the new owner, I had to deal with them. Now, I had agreed with him, or actually, he'd offered to cover all refunds on orders that were placed before I bought the store. And he has been true to that mostly. He covered most of the refunds, not quite all of them, because I had to, or I wanted to refund customers swiftly, and he was taking a long time to respond to my emails, huge hassle, and quite a lot of stress in the whole process. He eventually refunded most of the customers, and I swallowed the cost for refunding the rest of them, which I have never got back. But it's only about $100, so not really worth worrying about, at least in my opinion. Previous owner was otherwise very good and helpful. He gave me some good suggestions for products that I should try or that I should advertise, ones that I'm still using to this day. He also gave me the very helpful suggestion to focus on free plus shipping because those offers just convert very well. And he is absolutely right about that. And that is what I'm now teaching you guys. You guys get to learn without spending 4,000 US dollars on buying a website and seeing this for yourself. Let's talk a little bit about how I ran the business and how I dealt with these problems and eventually moved on. And well, just to tell you up front, I am not running the store in its original form. I've transitioned from selling to the German market to selling in the US now, and it is doing very well there. That's not how I started. I started by selling to the German market still. I was using the Facebook ads platform and the large amount of pixel data that he had, as well as the customer list that he had, to create lookalike audiences and retargeting audiences. Those ads worked really well. I was running new products using the targeting that I could only get because it was an established store, and that helped me test new products quicker, cheaper, and yeah, it was a very useful tool. So I would say having the pixel data and the customer list was probably actually worth the 4,000 US dollars on its own without anything else. I had more or less immediately outsourced the order fulfillment. I did it myself for about a week or two just to learn the ropes, and then I messaged the guy who fulfilled orders for the previous store owner whether he wanted to continue working for me, and he did. The problem with this was it was through Upwork and fairly expensive. I worked out that I was paying roughly $1 per order, which is insane. Of course, he was billed hourly, and I think it was paying him about $8 or $9 an hour. But the speed at which he worked and the amount of orders I got, I worked out that it was roughly costing me $1 per order, which on a free plus shipping offer, when you're getting between $7 and $10 income, or $7 to $10 in sales, we'll say $2 to $3 in product costs. So you've got $7 gross margin. You then factor in the ad costs, which were anywhere between 4 and 6 US dollars per purchase, at which point this $1 per order was taking about half or a third of my profit at the end of the day, at which point it was hardly worth doing and I needed a better solution. The other huge hassle I had was customer service. Because this was a German store targeting the German-speaking market, I had to do customer service in German. Now, for me, that's not a problem. I speak German fluently and I'm quite happy writing emails in German. However, that means I need to do it myself, and finding someone on Upwork to handle the customer service turned out to be rather hard in German. just because there isn't the same number of people who offer the service in languages that aren't English. Also, you don't have the option of going to countries like India or the Philippines where people speak very good English but have so low cost of living that you can hire them for a couple dollars an hour. It just barely seems to exist for the German speaking market. So at the time, I tried outsourcing the customer service, couldn't really get it to work, so I did it myself. And if you've never done customer service, let me tell you, it is a huge pain in the ass. It sucks. I hated doing it. You will hate doing it as well. You will hate every minute of it. Customers are annoying. They pose stupid questions. They make empty threats of legal action on a $7 purchase, even though the shipping times were clearly stated. It's just a hassle. You do not want to do customer service long term. Trust me, you want to outsource this. The problem isn't just that it isn't worth your time. The problem is also that you hate the work and it drains your motivation. You won't be as creative as you otherwise would be. And ultimately, the whole store will suffer because your energy will be taken away from doing the important work, which is creating ads, running shoutouts, optimizing the website. That's where you should be focusing. But instead, you'll be answering customer emails, which doesn't really take your business forward but needs to be done. So, this is why I recommend you outsource customer service as soon as possible. I had the idea to transition the site to the US very early on, but I decided to hold off first because I wanted to make good use of this Facebook pixel data and the existing audiences that I had. When I noticed how much of a hassle the customer service was, I really built the new store mainly so I didn't have to do customer service myself anymore. If you've got a store in English selling worldwide, then regardless of where the customer is from, they cannot expect you to answer their emails in their native language. So now if I get emails in German, my VA replies to them that she's happy to help them, but the store is in English and she doesn't speak German, so customers need to email in English and I no longer need to deal with that headache. Honestly, the main reason I transitioned to the US was to avoid this customer service nightmare. However, of course, it's also a bigger market, and I honestly can't believe that the previous owner didn't do this himself because it has proven to be very effective and very profitable indeed. At this point, I got rid of my previous guy who was fulfilling orders and passed that on to my VA, who I got from onlinejobs.ph. Link in the description if you're interested in checking out their service. I highly recommend it. I now had outsourced customer service and order fulfillment for a fraction of the cost I was paying just for order fulfillment before. My VA gets paid $400 a month roughly, and that is so worth it just for getting rid of these headaches, never mind all the time I save on order fulfillment. The next thing I did once I had the US store set up was I started running Instagram shoutouts. I had never done this before. I didn't do it in the German niche, also because there weren't really the large Instagram pages focused just on the German speaking world. So I was a lot more flexible once I was selling internationally, and these Instagram shoutouts proved to be a huge success and helped me build up a customer list for international customers, which I then used to basically replicate what I did at the start and transition to Facebook ads. I already had winning products from the German store, so I just had to move them over to the US store. And once I got Facebook set up with a few good audiences, mainly lookalike audiences based on my customer list, retargeting audiences based on past visitors, and also a few interest targeting groups that worked well. I now run these ads consistently. I haven't scaled them much because I haven't been able to keep the ad cost down low enough to be worth scaling. So what I'm doing now is I'm just running these ads consistently, $5, $10, $15 a day per product, and making fairly consistent sales with that. And on top of that, I'm running Instagram shoutouts, usually on a Sunday, once or twice a week. I run a bunch of shoutouts, which gives me these nice big peaks in my income. The next steps for the store are to grow the brand. It's a strong name, and I really think I can build a decent brand around the store, especially on Instagram, which my VA is creating great images for, and I really think there's a big potential to grow that. I also need to consistently or constantly find new products. I'm not giving away the store, but I will say it's a clothing store, therefore it is seasonal. Spring, summer's coming up, so the type of products I can sell changes, and that will be a huge opportunity if I can find the best products for the coming summer. If I can find them before the competition does, then I can really scale up my Facebook ads before there's much competition for the same product, and I think I could make a killing there. So that's what I'm doing right now. I'm looking for the next big product. So that's all for the store, what I've done, what I'm going to do in the future. This begs the question, would I buy a site again or a store again? Yes, I absolutely would. I think it was well worth the investment. I did make all my money back. I'm now making a profit every month, so it was financially worth it, even though I spent quite a lot of time on it still. At the end of the day, you have to realize that if you're buying a site for such a low multiple, you have to expect there to be serious problems. Otherwise, the owner wouldn't sell. Despite the justification they give on Flippa, and they always have a justification for why they're selling, you just have to realize that there definitely or most likely is some problem that they're not admitting. If you know that going in and factor that into how much you're paying for the store, then I think you will be set to hopefully have a positive experience. Don't trust the person who's selling the site too much. You always want to be skeptical of everything they say and also what they show you. I asked for access to the Shopify store. I also got access to the Facebook ad account. And as much as that did help, it's hard to do a thorough analysis and really isn't worth your time, because if they want to hide something, they can. The question you really have to ask yourself before you buy a site is, for you personally, is it worth investing this money to speed up the learning curve? Forget about any financial benefits that you may or may not receive. Ask yourself whether, just from an educational sense, from learning the business, from seeing what works and what doesn't on an existing store, is it worth spending this money? Look at things like the Facebook pixel data. It seems like nothing, but it is incredibly valuable, and if you wanted to build the same data yourself, if you wanted to build the same customer list yourself, it would cost you money to get. Money well spent, in my opinion, if you just acquire it through buying a store. So to summarize, I made all my money back and more. It would have taken me way longer to learn how to build and run a successful dropshipping store if I hadn't invested this money. and there's no way I would be where I am today without buying this site about 6 months ago. So all in all, it was a positive experience, albeit a stressful one at times. That's about all for my story of how I acquired and then turned my first dropshipping store into a success. I hope this was insightful to you, whether you're interested in buying a site or not. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments or hit me up on Twitter at StartSellingSSS. If you liked the video, please do like the video and subscribe to the channel. We release videos every single day, mostly about Shopify dropshipping, and at the moment I'm still answering every single question you guys pose, so I hope you can get a lot of value from this in the early stages of my YouTube channel when I really can interact with every one of you individually. Thank you for watching, and until next time.